are you? That's the question I want to talk to you about today. Now, when I asked that question to an audience in New York recently, somebody shouted out, "I'm a Texan!" Now, there is a person who knows who they are. Who are you, and what is it that you're bringing to the table is really the topic of this conversation. I thought I knew who I was. And if you had tried to even give me this talk 3 years ago, I would have been like, I totally know. But I had this moment a couple years ago that really changed my understanding, and I'm going to share it with you now, as painful as it is. About 2 years ago, I was in the process of shutting down a company I had built. And I had built it from this itsy-bitsy little fledgling thing to this multi-million-dollar firm that had defeated Microsoft and had done a series of other things, profiled in the Wall Street Journal and stuff. But after 11 years, it was time to shut it down. So the staff was gone, and the things I was facing every single day were things like, how do I get rid of 20 staplers? Because everyone knows that when you're building up a company, there's all sorts of things that are going on, but when you're shutting down a company, the oddest things that you have to pay attention to. And staplers just became my nemesis. Like, they just kept coming out of drawers everywhere, and after a while, I was like, why do we have these staplers in the first place? And to say I was blue is sort of underestimating it. It was one of those times in my life where I had felt like I was really a failure, because there's something about shutting something down that seems really limiting. And so it was one, most days I woke up and I thought about all these operational issues and legal issues and tax issues and stuff. And what I wanted to do every day was to go put on my pajamas, grab a bag of Lay's barbecue potato chips, and hide in bed. But I was invited to a party, and it was a girlfriend who was launching her second book. By the way, doing a book is like having a child, so you don't not go to someone's book launch party. It's kind of a big deal. So I was like, oh my God, I'm going to have to kind of pull myself together and go to this party. And as I'm standing in a crowd, a little circle starts to form. And introductions start to go around. I'm so-and-so of the Wall Street Journal. I'm so-and-so of Apple Computer. I live in Silicon Valley, by the way. I'm so-and-so of Google. And it was muckety-mucks. And as I'm coming around, it's becoming my turn, I feel like I'm in an Alice in Wonderland scene, where I've taken this pill, gone down the rabbit hole, and people are much, much taller than I am, and I have shrunk. And I stuck up my hand, and I said, I am nobody. A couple friends were there who chimed in and said, she's written a book, and she's done a couple things in her life. But I heard myself for the first time really hearing something I hadn't heard before, and it was one of those moments where I had hoped I'd had the magic lasso and I could kind of rope those words back in and kind of reel it in and say, oh, you didn't hear that. I didn't hear that either. Didn't ever happen. It got me thinking a lot about what defines us. Is it about the externalities of situations? Is it about the fact that you're from Houston? Is it about the fact that you might have a great title, lead a brand, have a great business, wear great bow ties? Is it about externalities, or is there something inherent to each person that is actually happening and manifesting its way through the titles and the jobs and the bow ties and the Houstonness that we are? In business today, I see this play itself out where I see admins being ignored, being told they don't count. And by the way, I was one of those admins. My first job at Apple Computer was as an admin. And I'd always go to the meetings like so excited, able to contribute, until everyone ignored all the admins. Later on, when I helped companies do this thing to solve really, really strategic problems, what I'd say is, and by the way, just to set up context on this, so there were companies that had been failing. They had missed a major product launch. They were missing a major market opportunity. It was always bad by the time we walked in the door. They typically tried to solve it themselves for some period of time. And then they had tried to solve it with like a McKinsey or Bain or somebody, and that had failed. And so by the time they got to us, it was sort of desperate times. And we would say, let us include people, anyone in the organization to come participate with us. in solving the problem. I'd call it an invitation to play. And the leader of the business, whether it was a business unit owner or a CEO or the board or whatever, would say, oh, no matter how desperate we are, we're not that desperate. And I'd be like, invite the customer service rep who listens to the phone call, invite the admin who hears what issues are going on, invite the sales rep who isn't making his number, and have them help us understand what is the problem we're facing today and how could we solve it. And undoubtedly in one of those rooms, about 3 or 4 weeks in of good listening, of being attentive to one another, there'd be this moment, and it was always come from sort of the nobody in the room. And everybody would be like, that's it. And together they would move forward.